Hello and welcome to Irlam Station. My name is Neil McCarthy and I'm the chairman of the Hamilton Davies Trust. Today we're doing a short video which is going to talk about the industry and the railways around Irlam and Cadishead. But before we start there, we'd just like to welcome you to the station house, which dates back to the late 19th century. This short video is going to talk about the industry of Irlam and Cadishead and the impact that the railways had on that industry. And behind me you'll see a series of heritage boards that have been provided by the Trust that talk about the various industries of Irlam and Cadishead. Irlam and Cadishead was built on the industries that arrived following the construction of the railways and the Manchester Ship Canal. And all along its banks you will find the evidence of the heavy industry that once thrived here. As we move away from the station, we find ourselves looking here at a small industrial railway display. And the locomotive behind me, which is a Peckett, is typical of the locos that we would have found in Irlam and Cadishead in its industrial heyday. There would have been 30 to 50 of these locomotives servicing the steelworks, the canal side railway, the soapworks and various other industries around. So the Peckett locomotive just behind me here, which we've renamed Irlam, and you can see we've branded it with the CWS Soap and Candle Works, and that's because the CWS had a number of these locomotives at its works in Irlam. This particular locomotive was bought by the Royal Ordnance Factory at Sellafield before the outbreak of the Second World War and spent its life on the Cumbrian coastline before moving to Carnforth, where it laid in sidings for many years. It was rescued in 2019, repainted locally by Wagons, and it resides now here just outside Irlam Station, helping us tell the story of our industrial railways. And as we move behind the locos and take in the wagons, which will from the various companies that used to be located in this area. So this is a typically standard 10-ton coal wagon, and the Manchester Ship Canal Company had hundreds if not thousands of these wagons and were a major mover of coal both along the canal and locally at Partington Coaling Basin, where ships would be fuelled for their transatlantic journeys with the fuel of the day, which was coal. But they also exported vast amounts of coal from Cadishead and Partington, bringing it through Woodhead from the Yorkshire coal mines and from the Lancashire coalfields when the UK was a major exporter. This export only stopped in 1981. This is one of a few remaining wagons from that era. It's actually from the Great Western Railway, but would have been identical to the wagons that the Ship Canal Company would have owned. As we move further back down the display, we take in the CWS once more, that in addition to the soapworks also had a margarine factory and lard factory located in Higher Irlam. As part of that operation, it had a creamery as well, and the creamery had bulk milk tankers, and this tanker represents one of those. Again, it's not an original tanker. This was actually owned by BP and was a fuel tanker, but it's almost identical in size and the era that the milk tankers that the margarine works would have owned. So we come to the end of the display. The Partington Steel and Iron Company was called. It was established on dry land when the canal cut through the rivers Mersey and Irwell back in the 1890s. The steelworks was started by Pearson and Knowles, and it became the Partington Steel and Iron Company before being renamed as the Lancashire Steel Manufacturing Company in the 1930s. They would have had a large number of slag wagons of a similar type that took the waste from the blast furnaces and deposited it various slag tips in the area. And daily you would have seen them trains trundle from the steelworks down the canal to the tips at Rixton and Statham. Behind the display there's a heritage board that explains in more detail the part these industrial railways played in the operations of these industries in the local area. I'd like to invite you to come down yourself to Irlam Station and read all about the rail history that we've been talking about in this video. The board before me is one of the many heritage boards in the area and talks about the loco and the wagons in a more detailed way that I've described here today.